accordance with the way it should be. This is cancer treatment that involves no surgery, it involves no drugs, it involves no radiation, it leaves the immune system intact, and suddenly the light of life has become a truly life-giving substance. None of it is about being anti-cancer. This is the interesting thing. And AIDS and all of these types of disease, it's not anti-anything. It's pro-life. And the thing that has amazed doctors is that you can actually cure cancers by thinking about preserving life. Everything that they've done up to date has been the opposite. It's about killing cancer. And in doing that, you're destroying DNA, you're destroying body tissue, you're destroying cellular structure, you're affecting their immune system. Because the rule was that nobody said you had to have a good quality of life after the cancer had been killed. What they had to do was to kill the cancer. Well, the best cancer cure on that basis is a bullet through the head. That's killed the cancer. Well, now what they're looking at is the potential for not killing the cancer, but for giving the body back the life resonances that it should have had. And now scientists are saying, yeah, the light body. All of this stuff connects together within us in light waves. We now know how to begin to manipulate those light waves. Yes, you can work in a lab and you can attach 2 atoms of gold or ruthenium or whatever to a DNA strand. How the heck do you do that in a live body? We see now that because of this, what they're working on is a very straightforward process that enables them to do exactly that. They can move into bodily areas with little devices such as this fellow. These are machines, computers more powerful than anything you have on your desk in your office or at home, which are capable of performing these microscopic little bits of surgery, for want of another name. They will place the atoms at the end of DNA strands. They can be devised to do just that. In fact, we could have them all the time so that we never actually got out of whack anyway, because they would see it coming and correct it. Monatomic elements have anti-aging properties, we're told. They correct DNA, they interact with DNA. They are devices which can affect the hormonal structure of the body. This is a really interesting medical area. Each of the original metals seems to have a relationship to one or the other of the glands in our endocrinal system. Gold seems to link up with the pineal gland, for example. Iridium seems to link up with the pituitary gland. These substances, whether ingested or injected or whatever, they can affect and heighten and enhance the hormonal secretions from any of these chosen or selected glands. It's a science which now puts paid to the problems associated with hormone replacement therapy, for example. You know, it's a therapy which is very popular. It works to an extent. It has some funny side effects, but in the end, all they're really doing is dosing human beings up with the hormones from the desiccated glands of dead animals. Well, there's not a lot of point in that. Far better if they can find a way to make more of our own. So why not enhance the pineal gland to produce more melatonin? Why not enhance the pituitary gland to produce more serotonin? So that's the area that they're moving into now, and these materials will do exactly that. In today's world, the Institute for Advanced Studies in Austin in Texas has described these materials as exotic matter. It can think of no better way to explain them. They're exotic. They conform to no rules, and that they're not like anything else they've ever known. They are not on the periodic table of elements. Science has never known about them until the last few years. The Center for Advanced Study in Illinois classifies superconductivity, which is one of their main attributes, as the most remarkable property in the universe. So we've got something pretty amazing here. We've got a very ordinary looking white powder which is exotic beyond any comparison and contains abilities which are the most remarkable properties in the universe. And yet it appears like some grains maybe of talcum powder. So we sort of move towards rounding up here. Manipulation of space-time has been something they've been talking about for about the last 5 to 7 years. A fellow here called Miguel Alcubierre. He's a Mexican mathematical scientist involved with the Max Planck Institute in Germany. was working at the time in 1994 for the University of Wales over in Britain. This is the abstract at the beginning of a multi-page document that he wrote, the journal Classical and Quantum Gravity, which caused quite a stir worldwide. He didn't pose any questions. He didn't say that this is what we're researching. He began his article with, "We now know." In fact, the abstract reads, "It is now known that it's possible to modify space-time in a way that allows a spaceship to travel at an arbitrarily large speed by a purely local expansion of the space-time behind the ship and an opposite contraction in front of it. A motion faster than the speed of light, reminiscent of the warp drive of science fiction." Well, we're back to the sort of questions that we have with the DNA and the strands. How do we solve our space travel problems? We know that people's lives can't last long enough to get to the distant stars. We know that our machinery and metals can't. We know that the fuel runs out. We know that these things are inordinate distances away. How do we deal with it? We deal with it laterally, as Alcubierre suggests. We think about it differently. We forget about the spacecraft. What do? We look at the spacecraft, we look at the million light years that it has to travel, and we know that that's impossible. So why don't we just take the million light years and put it behind the spacecraft? Why don't we think about that? Why not move the space-time instead of the craft, so that with zero propulsion and no time having gone by, it can move through a million light years because you've simply screwed that up, tossed it behind it, opened it up again, and it says, "It is now possible to modify space-time." Well, yes, it is. He was absolutely correct. It is now possible. This was followed in a series of related articles. American scientist, an article written by the physicist Michael Spear, he showed that this had nothing to do with violating Einstein's theory, the theory that nothing can travel faster than light. It didn't violate that at all because nothing would be traveling anywhere. It would be staying still. Space-time would be moving. The acceleration rate, he said, would be enormous in theory, but there wouldn't actually be any. The true acceleration would be zero. Fuel consumption, zero. Time taken, zero. Distance traveled, million light years, maybe. So the question was raised, okay, it's possible, how is it possible? What's the device that makes it possible? And the answer came back loud and clear, exotic matter will be needed to generate distortions of space-time. The next question that went back was, what is exotic matter? Exotic matter, here's the description, it has the curious property of having a negative energy density, unlike normal matter that we're familiar with that makes up the people and the planets and the stars, which has positive energy density. The necessary exotic device is an operative superconductor. And in fact, the list of what exotic matter is the same list of every attribute that applied from the research tests on monatomic superconductive elements. They're the only substance ever to have been classified as exotic matter. What's needed to generate distortions in space-time? Exotic matter. What does bending space-time mean? It means the ability to move from one dimension into another. What did this stuff prove that it can do? Move from one dimension into another and be brought back again. This is NASA's rather unattractive picture of what they call now their warp drive program. Believe it or not, NASA have a warp drive program. They're using Star Trek terminology, and this is their sort of logo picture for it. We have